Have you ever stopped and asked yourself why, even when life seems to give us everything we thought we wanted, we still feel empty? Why joy feels fleeting? Why fulfillment slips through our fingers like sand? What if I told you that the answer isn't out there in some distant achievement? And it isn't just a matter of thinking positively. The truth is far more powerful, far more scientific, and far more spiritual than most people dare to believe. Here's the thing. Your brain is wired in a way that shapes your very experience of happiness. Every thought you have, every emotion you feel sparks tiny electrical signals that dance across your neural pathways. And those patterns, yes, those intricate networks of neurons, determine how you perceive the world, how you respond to challenges, and how capable you are of sustaining true joy. But here's where it gets extraordinary. Neuroscience alone isn't the full story. You see, science can map the firing of neurons, track the release of dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, but it cannot measure the human spirit. It cannot capture the essence of awe when you watch a sunset, the deep sense of peace when you lose yourself in meditation, or the transcendence that comes when you connect with something larger than yourself. That's the spiritual side of the equation. And when neuroscience meets spirituality, when the mechanics of the mind meet the depth of the soul, you tap into a dimension of happiness that's permanent, that's unshakable. Think about it. Every meditation, every moment of gratitude, every act of selfless love doesn't just feel good. It physically rewires your brain. It strengthens neural circuits that are associated with resilience, with emotional balance, with joy. Your brain begins to expect happiness. Your mind starts to attract it. And what's more, your soul begins to align with it. This is not theory. This is biology fused with the timeless wisdom that every culture has known. Joy is not outside of you. It is within. Most people chase happiness like it's a destination, like a paycheck, a promotion, or the next achievement will finally fill the void. But what neuroscience tells us, what spiritual practice confirms, is that happiness is a skill, a habit, a way of being that you cultivate inside yourself. Your thoughts shape your neurons shape your feelings, and your feelings shape your reality. Every time you choose to shift your focus from fear to love, from scarcity to abundance, from anger to gratitude, you are literally sculpting the architecture of your brain and the architecture of your life. And here's the kicker. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You don't need to wait for some perfect moment. Right now, you can choose to break the patterns that have held you back. Right now, you can ignite the circuits in your brain that create joy. Right now, you can merge science with spirit, mind with soul, and start living a life that isn't just successful, but deeply, undeniably, powerfully happy. Because when you understand this connection, when you truly internalize that your brain is capable of learning joy and your spirit is capable of sustaining it, you unlock a force that no external circumstance can shake. You step into a life where happiness is no longer a fleeting visitor, but your natural state. And the beauty of it, this is not some mystical promise. It's your biology, your consciousness, and your choice converging into one unstoppable truth. You can be happy deeply and permanently. Starting right now, your neurons are waiting. Your spirit is ready. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to radiate joy no matter what life throws at them, while others struggle to find even a single moment of peace? It's not luck, it's not circumstance. It's the way their brain and their spirit have learned to work together. Happiness, my friends, is not just a fleeting emotion that comes and goes with the ups and downs of life. It is a skill, a habit, a deep capacity that can be trained, strengthened, and cultivated. And science now proves it. Neuroscience tells us that every thought, every emotion, every reaction you have literally shapes your brain. Neurons that fire together, wire together, and your daily focus, your mental patterns, even the stories you tell yourself are creating the architecture of your mind. If you habitually dwell on fear, scarcity, or resentment, your brain reinforces those pathways, making it easier to feel trapped in negativity. But here's the extraordinary news. The reverse is also true. If you consciously direct your attention toward gratitude, love, purpose, and meaning, you are literally rewiring your brain to experience more joy, more fulfillment, more happiness. Your neural pathways begin to favor optimism, resilience, and emotional stability, and over time, this becomes your new default state. Now, let's talk about the spiritual side. because this is where it becomes truly transformative. Science can map neurons, track chemical releases, measure brainwaves, but it cannot capture the essence of awe, of wonder, of connection to something greater than yourself. Spiritual practices like meditation, prayer, mindfulness, acts of kindness, or simply being present in the moment engage your brain in a way that is measurable yet profoundly mysterious. They create patterns of neural activity that reinforce inner peace, reduce stress, and even enhance physical health. But beyond the biology, these practices connect you to the deepest part of who you are. The part that knows joy isn't dependent on external circumstances. When neuroscience and spirituality converge, they give you the blueprint for a life where happiness is not fleeting or conditional, but a sustainable state of being. Most people live in survival mode, reacting to life instead of creating it. They chase happiness as if it's a destination, believing that achievement, recognition, or material gain will finally fill the void. And while those things can bring temporary satisfaction, they cannot create permanent joy. The lasting kind of happiness comes from understanding that your brain is plastic, that it can be trained, and that your spirit is designed to seek connection, meaning, and transcendence. Every time you pause, reflect, express gratitude, or extend love, you strengthen the neural circuits that support happiness. You are literally shaping your brain, and in doing so, shaping your life. Imagine for a moment that your brain is like a garden. Every thought is a seed. Negative, fearful, or resentful thoughts plant weeds that spread and choke out growth. Positive, loving, and purposeful thoughts plant flowers that bloom into vibrant experiences, resilience, and joy. And here's the critical part. This is not about denying reality or ignoring challenges. It's about choosing which seeds you water, which patterns you reinforce, and which neural circuits you strengthen every single day. This is where science and spirit meet. Neuroscience gives us the tools to understand how our brains work. Spirituality gives us the wisdom to know what to cultivate. Together, they provide the ultimate roadmap to lasting happiness. When you start to see happiness as a skill, as a trainable capacity, everything changes. You stop blaming circumstances, other people, or the past for your emotional state. You realize that you have more power than you ever imagined, the power to shape your brain, to influence your thoughts, and to align your spirit with the highest version of yourself. And it doesn't require magic or extraordinary circumstances. It requires awareness, intention, and consistent practice. Every breath, every choice, every moment of reflection contributes to rewiring your brain, to nurturing your inner life, and to creating a foundation for deep, lasting joy. The fascinating thing about this connection is that it also enhances every other area of your life. When your brain is wired for happiness and your spirit is aligned with meaning, your relationships improve, your resilience strengthens, your creativity flows, and your sense of purpose deepens. You become magnetic, not because you try harder, but because your internal state radiates outward, influencing everything around you. Neuroscience shows that your emotions are contagious. When you cultivate joy and peace within, you naturally elevate those around you. Your happiness becomes a force multiplier, impacting your family, your community, and even the world in subtle but powerful ways. And here's the part that is truly empowering. You don't have to wait. You don't need permission. You don't need the perfect moment or a perfect life. You can start today. You can choose to focus on thoughts that nurture joy. Engage in practices that feed your spirit and consciously rewire your brain for lasting happiness. Every step you take in this direction strengthens your neural pathways, reinforces your inner resilience, and brings you closer to the profound, unshakable fulfillment that everyone longs for. Happiness is no longer a mystery or a random gift of life. It is a science, a practice, and a spiritual journey combined. And once you understand this, once you start to apply it, everything in your life begins to shift in ways you may never have imagined. Have you ever asked yourself why some people seem to thrive no matter what life throws at them while others struggle to find a moment of peace even in good, sir? Circumstances? Why does fulfillment feel so elusive for so many of us, even when we've achieved success, wealth, or recognition? The answer lies in an extraordinary connection that few people fully understand, a connection between the workings of the brain, the depth of the human spirit, and the experience of true, lasting happiness. When science and spirituality align, When the understanding of your mind meets the wisdom of your soul, you unlock a level of fulfillment that goes far beyond temporary pleasure. This is not just theory, it is reality, proven by neuroscience and experienced by those who consciously engage with their inner lives. Let's start with the brain. Neuroscience has revealed that your brain is incredibly plastic. It changes and adapts based on your thoughts, emotions, and experiences. Every decision, every reaction, every thought you focus on reshapes your neural pathways. Neurons that fire together wire together, meaning your mental habits, positive or negative, become the structural foundation of how you experience life. If you spend your days steeped in fear, resentment, or scarcity, you reinforce those circuits, making it easier for your mind to default to negativity. Conversely, when you deliberately practice gratitude, kindness, mindfulness, or focus on your strengths, you begin to rewire your brain toward optimism, resilience, and joy. This is not a small effect. It's profound, measurable, and life-changing, but understanding the brain alone is not enough. Happiness is not purely biological. Science can map neurons and measure chemicals, but it cannot fully explain the sense of awe when you stand in nature, the peace that comes with meditation, or the profound connection that arises when you serve others selflessly. That is where spirituality enters the equation. Spirituality is not a religious prescription. It is the recognition that there is something larger than yourself, that life has depth, and that your inner world matters as much, if not more, than your external circumstances. When you engage in spiritual practices, whether meditation, prayer, mindfulness, reflection, or acts of love and service, you are strengthening not just your emotional resilience, but your very capacity to experience fulfillment. These practices reshape your brain, calming the nervous system, enhancing emotional regulation, and creating a state of well-being that is measurable in the lab and undeniable in everyday life. The most remarkable thing happens when neuroscience and spirituality converge. The science explains the mechanisms, how the brain rewires itself, how neural pathways are strengthened, how neurotransmitters support emotional balance. Spirituality provides the wisdom, what to focus on, how to connect, and where to direct your energy to create meaning and purpose. Together, they form a blueprint for happiness that is sustainable, enduring, and within your control. No longer is joy a fleeting guest that comes and goes at the whim of circumstance. It becomes an internal state you can cultivate, a skill you can practice, and a way of living that transforms everything you touch. Most people chase happiness in the wrong places. They believe that success, money, recognition, or external validation will finally fill the void. And while these things can bring temporary pleasure, they cannot create a foundation for lasting fulfillment. True happiness arises when you understand that your mind is a tool you can train and your spirit is a source you can nourish. Every moment of reflection, every act of gratitude, every conscious effort to shift from fear to love, scarcity to abundance, and distraction to presence reinforces neural circuits that support lasting joy. You are literally sculpting your brain and your life simultaneously. Imagine that your mind is a garden. Every thought you entertain is a seed. If you nurture fear, resentment, or anger, you grow weeds that choke out vitality, creativity, and peace. If you cultivate love, gratitude, and mindfulness, you grow flowers that bloom into resilience, creativity, connection, and fulfillment. And unlike a garden that grows on its own, your inner garden responds directly to your attention, intention, and effort. This is the point where science and spirit merge. Neuroscience tells you how your mind works. Spirituality shows you what to cultivate. And together they allow you to harvest a life of purpose, joy, and meaning. When you internalize this, when you begin to actively engage your brain and spirit in alignment, you notice profound shifts in every area of your life. Relationships deepen because you are more present, more empathetic, and more connected. Challenges become opportunities because your mind is resilient and your spirit grounded. Work becomes meaningful because you operate from a sense of purpose rather than pressure or obligation. Creativity flows because your internal state is balanced and energized. And perhaps most importantly, your happiness is no longer dependent on external factors. It radiates from within and influences everyone around you. Neuroscience shows us that emotions are contagious. Your joy, resilience, and peace create ripples that impact family, friends, colleagues, and communities. The beauty of this connection is that it empowers you to take full responsibility for your own fulfillment. You do not need permission from anyone. You do not need external validation, and you do not need the perfect circumstances to start experiencing joy. Every time you choose to focus on thoughts that uplift, engage in practices that feed your spirit, and consciously shape your mind, you are activating the neural networks that sustain in happiness. It is a cumulative process. Each small step compounds over time, and the life you create is a direct reflection of your choices. Happiness is no longer a mystery, a gamble, or something left to chance. It is the product of understanding your mind, honoring your spirit, and intentionally merging the two. When you embrace this, you unlock a level of fulfillment that is profound, resilient, and transformative.